Hello, this is Tia Torres, and welcome to another Tia Talk podcast episode. And we are still on the Rescue 101 series. This is part 3. And the last time we talked, what did we talk about? How it would affect rescuing dogs, bringing them into your house. And by the way, I forgot to mention, I am coming at this as you're a soon to be wannabe private dog rescuer. You don't want to go out and build a big, huge kennel. Okay. And that's a whole nother topic. Okay. That's a whole nother huge can of worms. So this is just like, you want to go rescue one dog at a time, stick your toe in the pool, and then maybe go on to 2 dogs, et cetera, out of your home. So we talked about how it might affect your dogs and your current dogs. And before I go on a little bit further, I do have to say that, and I think I brought this up last week, that my house has become an all hound dog house, all former hunting dogs. So there's a lot of energy going on in here. And for that reason, when my pit bull Lucky passed away, Lucky was the first dog in my house. And then came Jethro, and then came the rest of the hounds. So he got used to their energy, slowly. But to bring another non-hound into my house, I have noticed has been very stressful, especially for a pit bull type dog, because genetically speaking, pit bulls are not always the best with other dogs. So they don't look at, the hounds, like the hounds are very vocal. So when they meet a new dog, they're like, yeah, and they're barking at each other, but it's all in fun. Well, the average pit bull does not take it that way. So a couple of weeks ago, I had no choice but to take in one of our little pit bulls. Her name is Kim Possible. I call her KP, excuse me. And she is very dog reactive. She does not like other dogs. So she is in the front of my place, in my office. She sits right next to me at my desk. There is another hound in the room in a crate also, but he's very calm. But that being said, it's very nerving walking her through the house because, I do crate my dogs throughout the day. They don't run loose in the house, but boy, does she tense up, and my hounds, they're very well behaved. They're used to other dogs, but every now and then one will get excited and let out and then the rest just follow suit, and it's an explosion. She wants to tear into them, because she doesn't see it the way they see it. So this is why I say your existing dogs in the home must be ready for this. Now, because my dogs are so used to new dogs, I can go, quiet, and they all shut up. And then I can continue walking her through without chaos. So if your existing dogs in your home are not the best of mannered, you need to start working on that first. I'm telling you right now. It's just going to be so stressful for this new dog that you bring in. Okay. What else did we talk about? We talked about, the expenses of, when you take a new dog in, what's the first expenses you're going to have to put out right away? And we talked about that. And it was almost like a week's paycheck, pretty much. If you're working just a regular normal job, it's like a week's paycheck. So let's say you have gotten past those hurdles. You can afford it. You have really great dogs or no dogs, and you can do this, okay? And you know what? Let me add one more thing. Those of you with cats, you got to be careful, because cats, as you know, they don't do well with change. And they're not used to any dog in the house. You might see some behavioral changes that you do not like. And many, many years ago, I adopted out a dog to a woman with a cat. And she, thankfully our dog was good with cats, but her cat had never been around dogs. But our dog ignored her cat. Well, within a week, we had to come back and get our dog because her cat started pissing in her bed. So things to take into consideration, everybody. Everybody in the household's got to be good with this decision. Y'all got to be on the same page. But let's just say everything's copacetic. You got a little extra money to spend and you can do this. All right. Now let's talk about what type of dog you're going to rescue. Okay? Remember now, only one. And I'm going to do a whole episode on just say no. Okay? Whole another episode on that because that's going to be the toughest one. But you're going to just take in one dog, whether it's from the shelter, you buy one on the street. But let's just say, I would say the safest bet is to maybe go to a shelter. That's where you're going to do a lot of good. Because if you buy one on the street, it's a whole different thing. You got to look for an owner, and there's all kinds of things you got to do with that. But go to a shelter, and let's face it, you don't know what you're getting. Because the same dog in a shelter may not be the same dog that you bring home once it gets comfortable. And that could be in a bad way or a good way. Okay? So that being said, let's talk about the type of dog. Now, this is your first try at this, right? And I know everybody wants to go and rescue a pit bull. It's the trendy thing to do. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of pit bulls in the shelters, but I would not recommend that as your first dog to try and rescue, okay? For multiple reasons. One of them being, I don't want you to get discouraged because they're difficult to adopt out. So I want your beginning rescue experience to be positive. So I would say maybe start with a smaller dog and a cute little mutt. Seriously. Something that's going to get a home quickly. And that way you're starting to learn the ropes of how to do things. And it will not rain on your parade from the beginning. And yeah, I know some people say, well, that's not fair. She's taking out the cute one. Well, so what? They need homes too. I would not recommend a puppy. Seriously, I wouldn't. Because that's a whole different adoption process, okay? I want to make this simple for you. So something smallish, maybe to medium size, and cute. Because while we are just looking at this dog based on its appearance, once you get him or her home, there may be a whole different gambit of issues, as in behavioral, that you may come across. So let's get past the first hurdle of just the appearance. It's kind of like online dating. I mean, let's face it. When you're doing online dating, I mean, come on. It's the picture that makes you stop for a minute, right? Let's be honest with ourselves. So find something that's at least just cute to look at, appealing to look at. All right. Now, like I said, in the shelter, the same dog that you get out may not be the same dog that gets comfortable in your home. And we'll get to that. Actually, maybe on the next episode, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about the decompression time period. Okay. Now, depending on what shelter you go to, when you pay your adoption fee, it may cover the spay and neuter, the shots and all that. And hopefully it does, which would be great because it's all taken care of for you, much cheaper than if you have to pay for it yourself at a private vet. So try and look for a shelter that does it all for you. Okay. I know in some parts of the country, like where I'm at, they just hand you a dog. Okay. They don't do nothing. So for those of you that are in these type of areas and rural areas, I know it can be tough. And you got to work with what you got. But there isn't a shelter alive that wouldn't welcome you coming in to take one dog. Because one thing I can say for sure is that shelter workers don't enjoy euthanizing their animals. Okay? They don't. So you taking that one dog out, just Trust me, you'll make their day. So that's my quick little tidbit and getting your first dog to rescue. Okay, you're going to need supplies, obviously. I would recommend two things besides the obvious, which is like the dog food bowls, dog food leashes, all that stuff. I would get a baby gate and a crate. Okay. Whether it's a wire fold down crate or the plastic hard crates, I would get both. And I'll tell you why. Crate training dogs, it's a necessity. And we don't have to talk about it right this second, but I would say putting up a baby gate and isolating the dog away from the rest of the house. You don't just want to turn the dog loose. He might start peeing and all over the place, and it's just too much freedom. Too much freedom. So maybe in your kitchen, okay? Somewhere where he or she has room to run, but is still isolated from the rest of the house. And then maybe put the crate in the room with the door open, with the crate door open. Okay. And that way they can start getting used to sleeping in there and getting comfortable with it. You know, dogs look at crates as like their den. That's their place of comfort. I mean, I've crate trained hound dogs. Okay. Like that's an impossibility. And I did it, and they're very comfortable. Of course you don't want to keep them locked in there, 8 hours a day, but it is going to play a positive role further on down the line. Okay, well, that was part 3. That's my recommendation on your first dog. And the next episode, we will talk about decompression and allowing the dog to get comfortable and show his or her true personality and what to do with that. Okay, well, thanks for tuning in, and I'm going to keep going with my new motto. My mission is to rescue, but one day I hope that you'll be doing it for me. See you on the next one.